my name is Rachel Anderson. I'm the CMO over here at VirtualPBX, and helping me out today in chat is our PR coordinator, Janae Townsend. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to ask them in chat, and we'll go through them at the end of this webinar. We all want to get more out of our interactions with our customers, more out of our conversations with sales leads, but manual actions don't scale and they rarely create usable data. At VirtualPBX, I lead many of our automated processes, and the engine behind the bulk of those automations is Zapier. Zapier is a third-party tool that pulls data from one source, like your VirtualPBX business phone system, and lets you send that data into another tool. I have probably built well over 100 Zaps in Zapier, so if you're on and you're a customer and you've ever received a newsletter or a satisfaction survey from VirtualPBX, odds are that Zapier was behind the scenes making that happen. Before we get too far, let's talk about the differences between Zapier and Webhooks. Both options are included across all VirtualPBX plans, and both options are available to send data. So how do you choose? It depends on the data. There are 6 available triggers from VirtualPBX to choose from in Zapier, and well over 50 webhooks. These triggers are specific events that happen in your phone system, so in most cases, you'll make your choice based on the event that you need. In some cases, either may work, but as you'll see in the first step of creating an automation, the amount of information may vary. That said, whether you get your data from Zapier or from webhooks, both can be processed inside of Zapier. Today, we'll go through 4 examples. First, reports. Our example will be to send call data into Google Sheets, and as a bonus, I will show you guys around the Google Data Studio dashboard. The second will be notifications. Our example will be to send call center agent status into Slack. Our third will be a workflow. Our example will be to create a task in Trello to follow up on missed calls. Our fourth will be a communications flow, and in our example, we're going to send an appointment reminder via SMS. So let's get to our examples. First, reports. So we're going to create a report for calls answered, and in this case, we only are interested in a report that looks at inbound calls answered. So in our first step, we're going to choose VirtualPBX as our app, and our trigger event will be when a call is answered. Here you'll log in, so this information that will be requested is the exact same as your dash.virtualpbx.com login. So log in as you normally would. And then here is probably the very most important part of this whole process. This is our test data. So whenever you are creating an automation with Zapier and you have what you want to do in mind, my suggestion is always to create the action that will show you the information that you want to see. So in this case, I knew that I wanted to create a report for answered calls inbound. And let's say that I also wanted to know that my employee, Jeff Weinstein, was going to show up. I wanted to make sure that he was going to be in the data. So I could place a test call to Jeff that would be inbound to him. And then now I have this information as a test. So whenever you do that, you're always going to have some information to start with. If what you see here isn't what you needed in your report that you'll run, I would recommend to make that call, and then you can always click Load More to get new data. In this case, I haven't made another call since this time, so I don't see any more data. But I know I have what I need to continue. And again, I only wanted to look at inbound. So in this case, my data showed that I have an inbound call, but I don't want any outbound call data to be processed in this Zap. So I'm going to create a filter step. The app I'm going to use is called Filter by Zapier. And I only want to see inbound calls. So all of that information that we saw in the test data in our payload above is also available throughout the rest of your Zap. So here I see all that information again. And again, I'm only looking for call direction, and I want that to only be inbound. So I can scroll through this list until I find call direction. But if I know what I'm looking for, I can also search for it here. So call direction, perfect, there it is. I'm going to look at call direction when it contains the word inbound. Let's test that, perfect. My Zap would have continued. Again, it's so helpful to work with test data because now we know we have something that matches the criteria we're looking for. We had a sample of how it looked. We've confirmed that our workflow will work as we've thought of it. So next, I have the information that I need, but I need to set up my Google Sheet to be ready to receive that information. So over here, I'm going to create a Google Sheet that looks for the time that a call was answered, who the caller was, and what number that they dialed. So I've created this Google Sheet with those column headers. And now I'm going to head back into Zapier. The app I'm going to choose is Google Sheets. And in this case, I just want to create a new spreadsheet row whenever that call is answered and it's inbound. So create spreadsheet row. I'm going to log into my account. I'm going to choose that spreadsheet. So from this drop down, it will always show you the newest spreadsheets at the top, but just like any other step in Zapier, you can also search for it. So I'm looking at my spreadsheet called Answered Calls. The worksheet is sheet 1. And then here I can plug in that information that I need. So I'm going to look for caller ID, and I want to know the number that they dialed. So same as in that filter step, we see all of the information available from our test data here. So I can look for caller ID or I can search for it. Here I have the caller ID name, perfect. I'll choose that. And then I want the number that they dialed. Another interesting thing that you can use is in this example, I placed this test call to Jeff, and I know that his extension is 321. So if I forgot what this field was called, but I remembered that his number in particular, in this case, it's an internal call to an extension number, I know that's 321. So I can also search for that here. And here's the field I need, callee ID number. I'll select that. And that's all I wanted in my spreadsheet. So I'm going to continue. I've tested this once, but I'm going to retest that. Make sure that it appears how I want. Let's head over to the spreadsheet, and sure enough, there is my data. So I've got my timestamp, I have the caller name, I have the number dialed. This could be the last step in my process. This report here in a spreadsheet format may well be enough for what I need, but I've got a design background and I kind of like these reports to be a little more beautiful. So I'm going to send this information now into Google Data Studio. We use Google Data Studio for quite a lot of things internally. It is very simple to use. It feeds data from a number of sources, but the easiest one to get started with, which is perfect for our example, is Google Sheet. So we're just going to take the exact same spreadsheet for answered calls, and we're going to send that data here into Google Data Studio. So as you can see, I've already created a number of visuals for the data that we've processed. I can also add a date range if I want to only look at answered calls within a certain time period. And I have a couple of options here, but just so that you all can see how they work, let's create a new chart. I'm going to choose, let's do a table with heat map. It's going to have us click and drag and draw how big we want that box to be. Automatically, it's already looking for the information it thinks that I want to see. Sometimes it does a good job, but in this case, I don't really care about the number dialed. I only want to look at the caller. So on the right side, we're looking at the data, and instead of the number dialed, I want caller. So I'm going to remove number dialed, add caller. Perfect, I have what I need. But like I said, I come from a design background and this isn't looking very beautiful to me. I don't really like the row numbers. I can't read everything. The column shapes just aren't quite right. So there are options both under data and style to manipulate the data to make it look like what you want to see. You can even add filters on this table. So if we only wanted to see when Jane Doe called, we could add a filter that says only show me Jane Doe as a caller. In this case though, I just wanted to get rid of those row numbers and make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to head to style. As you can see, we've got some options to change the font to give it a different color. Here I'm going to uncheck row numbers. I can't see all of that data, so I'm going to wrap that text. And now that I see it, maybe this isn't quite right, so I'm just going to do this instead so that I can see everything in one line. And what I also want is, it'd be nice to see a summary for how many times a call was answered. So if I head back over to data, let's see, I'm going to show the summary row. So now I get my grand total for calls answered. Google Data Studio, I can't recommend it enough. It is so easy to just visualize your information, but one of the other great benefits is that you can share this information. You can give your fellow employees access to the report, but you can also just create an email delivery schedule to have this report appear in your inbox as a PDF on the schedule that you need. So once you've set up that Zap that sends your data into that Google Sheet, and now we've got this Data Studio report, we don't have to pull data anymore. This thing is live and it's working. So we can just schedule an email delivery Monday morning, show me all the calls that were answered the week before. Let's move on to our next example, notifications. So earlier, I asked Webhooks or Zapier. This is a perfect example. So in this example, we want to send a notification to Slack when a call center agent has changed their status. That's not available as a trigger in Zapier from VirtualPBX. So instead, I'm going to head over to Webhooks inside of my VirtualPBX account and look for that option. So I'll head into my Zapier Webhooks. I've got quite a lot going on. Here's the one that I've created for this example though. Here, when you first create your webhook, your hook name will be empty, so we gave it a name, in this case, Agent Status Change, Rachel Test. And then I'm going to grab my trigger event. We've got a few options here, and then there's this one option that has a kind of vague name, and there's a lot of information under the hood. So notification webhook, if we choose this, we will have another drop-down available for custom data. And if we choose this, all of a sudden we have quite a few more options to send in data. So all of these, plus what we have up here, there are over 50 options for sending webhooks. So if what you're looking for is not available inside of Zapier, take a look at what's available inside of webhooks. In this case, I could choose specific status changes from agents if I only wanted to see when agents marked themselves as away, because I want to make sure that we have lunches covered. I might only choose cubicle recipient away. But in this case, I want to know every status change. So I'm going to choose cubicle recipient status change. When you create your webhook, this field will be empty. And the reason that is because the information is being sent from VirtualPBX, and this is asking where to send it. So we're going to head into our Zap. We'll create a trigger from Webhooks by Zapier, and the trigger event will be to catch a hook. Again, we're sending the data from VirtualPBX, and Zapier is going to catch it. So we'll choose catch hook and continue. Here we get a URL. So we're going to copy this URL, go back to Webhooks, paste that in here, and then update our webhook. And then we have our test information. So once again, I would highly recommend, if you have something very specific in mind that you want to do, test that event. In this case, I wanted to know any status change of an agent. So I want to know what their status is and who they are. I've confirmed I have both. I have my event name and I have my agent name. Next, we'll decide where that information goes. In this case, I've decided I want to send a channel message in Slack. So I want to choose Slack as my application. And then here under event, we have a lot of options. If this is something that you want the whole company to see, you would choose send channel message, and that would be for a public channel. If it should only go to you, you might choose direct message. There are several other options available, so choose the one that's right for you. In this case, we're just going to send a channel message. We're going to log into Slack through Zapier. And here we're going to choose our information. So I want this to appear inside the channel I've made called Agent Status Log. All of the channels we have available will be here. So I'm going to search for it. There it is. And then we can write our custom text. So the information that will appear here, let's say every time this goes through, I know that I want to say this is going to be a status change alert. And then I want to know the agent that changed their status and what they changed their status to. So from the drop down, I'm going to choose my agent and I'm going to write Rachel Anderson has changed their status to, and then I'm going to look for the status. Perfect. If that's all I need for the message, then let's review the other options. I do want to send it as a bot. You could also decide that you wanted this to come from the creator of this Zap. So if I wanted it to send as a bot, I would choose yes. If I wanted this alert to look like it came from me, Rachel, I would say no. Because I said yes, I'm going to give this bot a name. We'll call it Agent Tracker, and we'll make it a little fun. We'll give an icon for the bot. These are icons that are available inside of Slack. I like the sparkle one, so we're going to choose sparkles. I've decided not to include a link to this Zap because I know that the people inside that channel don't need it. There are several other options available here. If I wanted to include a URL, if I was including links and I wanted those to be expanded, if I wanted to link any users to basically give them an alert in Slack, I could choose that here. I could schedule these. In this case, I have everything I need. All I want to do is send a message and have it come from this bot called Agent Tracker. So I'm going to hit continue and let's test and take a peek. Here it is. Agent status changed. Rachel Anderson has changed their status to away. Again, if that didn't look quite right, we can always edit that and then retest to confirm that it's looking like how we would like it to. And if it does, then we're ready to turn on our Zap. All right, notifications, 2 out of 4, done. Let's take a look at workflow. Workflow in particular can be a great option to choose for any kind of task services, your CRM, any time that you want to create a process for your teams that's the same every time. In this case, I've decided I need a process whenever we miss a call to make sure that we're calling back those customers. So I'm going to create that in Trello. And I've decided that my team is going to work out of Trello. We're going to have a board that looks at all of our missed calls, and we'll be able to handle those inside of Trello. So our first step is we need to find those missed calls. This trigger here, call ended in VirtualPBX, there's a lot of gold underneath this. It will give us information beyond just that call ended. And the important thing to consider, given the options that we have for trigger events for VirtualPBX, and it always comes down to this, is what information do you want to see? So in this case, I don't just want to know when a call was started, because that call hasn't been missed yet. Someone may have answered it. So I'm not choosing call started. I'm going to choose call ended because I know that when someone hangs up, of course, that call is over. So I'm going to choose call ended with the idea in mind that there are several reasons a call may end. It might end because it was missed, like what we're looking for. It might end just because the callers hung up after the conversation was over. So we know that there's one extra step that we need beyond just call ended. So I'm going to choose call ended here, and I'm going to look for the information that I need inside of my test. Again, you're going to choose your login here. We're going to test that trigger. Once again, this is a perfect example of finding the information that you need. So in this case, if I needed to know what a missed call looks like and I didn't get it inside of here, I might test that. Just put in a call to the system and hang up so that it appears as missed. In this case, that's what happened. So I see that the hang up cause was no answer. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed to continue, where I can look at ended calls that were ended because nobody answered. So I'm going to continue here, knowing that I'm going to filter for this in the next step. Everything else I need to know who that person was and how I can call them back. And I have that number, who called, who they called, and both of their numbers here in the caller and callee ID information. So I'm going to continue. And I need to create that filter to look at only when the calls are missed. So again, I'm going to choose Filter by Zapier. I'm going to look for hang up cause. I want that to be when the hang up cause contains no answer. Again, I can't stress it enough. Always good to have the data that you want to work with, because let's say maybe I spelled it wrong. If I put not answer and then I took it through the test, it would say my Zap wouldn't have continued. In my mind, I know that my sample was exactly what I wanted to see, so I know that I have to go back and edit something. So I'm going to check in here again and look at hang up cause. It was because it was no answer, not answer. So I'm going to get rid of that T. Let's try that again, and this time my Zap would have continued because my conditions matched the test that I was looking at. Next, I'm going to create a card in Trello. So for those who aren't familiar, Trello is a very basic task management tool where you have cards that you move from stage to stage based on where they're at. There's a handful of information that you can see inside of a card. We can see there's a description, there's some activity, we've got our title. If we wanted to add a label, we could add a label. In this case, we've got a working board. We know that whenever we have a missed call, we want that to appear in backlog because our team hasn't addressed it yet, and then we'll move it on from there. So in creating our card, we're going to choose Trello. The action event is going to be to create the card. This is my account. And here we're going to choose that board. So in this case, the board was missed call. So we could search for missed call, select it here. We're going to put it in our to-do list. So here we can see we've got the names of our boards. And actually, let's switch this one. Here we go. So we're going to look for to-do and add a card on our to-do list. So back in our Zap, we're going to choose the list to do. We need to pick a name for our card. So I decided that the name of the card should be the person from whom we missed the call. So I'm going to choose their caller ID name. And then here I'm going to fill out the body of that description. So same as what we were looking at inside of Slack, I can choose to put information that everybody would see. So I could say missed call received. We know that's going to be true for everyone that passes through this. And then I can choose to add some custom information. My options are everything that appears inside of the trigger. So let's say that the ring time was important for me. I want to see how long that person was waiting before they decided to hang up and that turned into a missed call. So I'm going to look for how long that rang for, ringing seconds, and I'm going to say that this call rang for, and then find my time stamp. So this call rang for 20 seconds. And was missed. Caller was, and then let's look for their name. So we know that they were Jeff Jones, and let's look for their number, and we'll say, please call them back at, and let's look for their number. Again, we could scroll, or we could make it easier and search for it. So their caller ID number was 321. Just in case that looks off to folks, this information will include calls to your employees, to other employees, or from outbound. So you may see a mixture of extension numbers as well as full phone numbers. In this case, the call that was missed was an internal call. Jeff Jones at extension 321 made a call to Jane Smith that was missed. So we're going to put in his number here. We could always add more information, like the call direction, anything about the hang-up cause if we wanted to include that. Basically, you get this whole laundry list to choose from. We could choose here if we had a label to give this inside of Trello. In this case, we'll say none. We could choose the card position. So in our list, if we want all of the new cards to appear at the top or to fill from the bottom. In this case, I'm choosing bottom because I want the calls that were missed the longest time ago to appear at the top. I can also choose a due date. So one of the really nice things about Zapier is you can give it relative dates. So if you had maybe wanted to say that this task was going to be due on February 10th, we could write February 10. But if we want this to be something that's dynamic, we could also give it something simple like due today at noon. And then it would know today and then give the time of noon. That's all that we're going to include on this one, so let's hit continue. And we're going to retest that action. And at the very bottom of our list, we're going to see our example. It's past noon where I am, so that task is technically overdue. So here's all the information that we wanted to see. That missed call was received. The call rang for 20 seconds and was missed. Caller was Jeff Jones. Please call them back at 321. So we have all the information we want to see here, but again, if this didn't look quite right, we could always go back to our setup step, make some adjustments, and test again. Now, to throw you guys for a loop, all of the examples that we've done so far have a trigger event that happened inside of VirtualPBX. When a call was answered, when an agent changed their status, or when a call was missed. We do also have an option inside of Zapier to send SMS messages. This is particularly helpful if you have an existing system, say for appointments, that you want to give reminders to your customers. So in this case, we're going to create a communication flow where appointments inside of Google Calendar receive reminders about their event in a day. So just like we always do, let's test with real information. Here I've created an appointment, a test appointment with Jane Smith. I've decided that the location of the appointment is going to be Jane Smith's phone number. It might seem obvious when we say it out loud, but if you want to send an SMS, of course we need to know that person's phone number. So this may vary across the tools that you use, how it shows up, but as long as you have a field for somebody's phone number, then we'll be able to send an SMS message. In this case, I'm just going to use the location inside of Google because my appointment with Jane Smith is going to be over the phone and I'm going to call her. So I have her number here and we've got some information, of course, inside of that event. So we're going to have a message go out to Jane Smith on her phone number here, reminding her of the appointment. So we know that the information about that appointment is coming from Google Calendar. So my first step is going to be to choose Google Calendar from my trigger option. And I want to send her a reminder that has to do with when the event starts. So I want to send her a reminder about when that event starts, and I want it to be an hour before or maybe a day before. So no matter what, I'm concerned about the time of that appointment. So my trigger event is going to be looking at when that event starts. I'm going to log into my account. And here I'm choosing the calendar appointments. And this is one of the nice steps that Google Calendar created in their Zapier integration. They had the idea that people probably want to give appointment reminders. So I'm going to send a reminder one day before this appointment. That will give Jane enough time to reschedule if she needs to. So I'm going to type in 1, and then the unit is going to be days. You can see there's quite a lot of options here, so if we needed to give Jane more or less time, we'd be able to choose that. And then of course we're going to test our trigger. In this case, you'll see that I'm all the way to event D because event A, B, and C didn't have the information that I needed. So I created the Jane event, and let's make sure that I have everything I need. So I want to be able to call her by name. So I do have her name here. I want to send her an SMS. Perfect. There is the location. And let's see. I also want to remind her when that appointment is. So we can verify here. We've got a pretty nice looking date and time. So I have everything I need. I'm going to continue. And here is VirtualPBX has 6 triggers available in Zapier, and we have one action right now. The action is to send an SMS message. So I'm choosing VirtualPBX as my application. My action event is to send SMS message. Of course, I'm going to log in. And then here are our options. So the from number, this is our main company number. I've decided that if Jane is going to reply, I want it to go to the main number, and I want her to receive the message from the main number. So I've just typed that in here from my list of options. So this phone number list will be pulled from your account. If you only have one phone number on your account, when you pull that drop down, you'll only see that one number. If you have, maybe 100 numbers, then all 100 numbers will be available to choose from. So across the board, if you are a VirtualPBX customer, you'll be able to send an SMS message out from your phone numbers. So I'm going to choose this number. Of course, when we're sending an SMS number, we need to know who we're sending that to. So this is we'll erase that so you can see it. We're going to look for that phone number here. There it is, so we'll just select that. And then we get to write our message. So let's say I want to say, hello, and let's look for her name. Hello, Jane Smith. This is a reminder about your appointment scheduled at, and then let's look for that pretty time. Here it is. So January 31st, 9 a.m. And let's just tell her, if you are unable to make it, please reply to this text or give us a call. Perfect. We can go ahead and test that. It will also, one thing that's nice, especially when you're creating a description or a message, and you're dealing with what might not look very friendly here, is on the next step, you always get a preview to your preview. So we'll be able to see what that would look like. It looks like it pulled in the information well, so we're able to test and continue that. Let's take a look at how that appears in our test. Here it is. So we confirmed that the message went through correctly on that phone number. All the information we wanted to send to Jane Smith is available here. Of course, we could always complicate this further. We used the option with Trello to take a look at missed calls, but this could be another great option for a CRM integration. If you had appointments in your CRM with the date, that person's information, their phone number, you have everything that you need to create this workflow that we would ask 1 hour before this event, send an SMS message to this person. And there you have it. There are 4 examples. So I'm going to head back over here, and I saw on the side here we've got a couple of questions coming through. So I'll do my best to answer all the questions that we have. It looks like first question, is Zapier free? To a point. So Zapier, it depends on how much you use it. Zapier includes a free trial, and that free trial has 100 tasks per month included and 5 zaps. So if you, for example, we created that missed call. If you were only going to use your Zapier account for missed call notifications and you knew that you only receive about 20 missed calls in a month, the free trial in Zapier is plenty for you. You won't hit that limit. That said, we use Zapier internally for tons of things. It's especially helpful when you have two applications that do not have a native integration with each other to be able to pair those two together. So it can definitely be a slippery slope with Zapier. Once you start using it for one thing, you'll see that it's available to use for, I think they're up to over 4,000 applications. So there is a free trial, but they also have a few plans available that let you go up to tens and tens of thousands of zaps per month. So there's room to grow, but I would definitely recommend to start on the free trial. Let's see, next question. What is one of our most requested automations? So we went through one of them actually. One that I hear all the time, and if you're a customer on this call, I might have even helped you out with it, is information about agent status changes. It seems like this one comes up for a few reasons. One is to, of course, make sure that you have people inside of your queues so that if you get an incoming call, somebody is there to answer. So that's the one that we hear the most often, and customers have used it in a few different ways. I know I've helped with a few examples that use Google Sheets, which is something that those call center managers use as a report when they're doing performance reviews with their team, where they basically look at how much time they spent in the queue over the last month. But that one also is really helpful just as notifications to let a manager know when lunches are happening, when people are gone for the day, basically just making sure that there's coverage in the queue. Let's see. Not too many questions today. So thank you everyone for attending. If you do come up with any questions, we will keep the comments live on this video for a few days, and you're always welcome to give our team a call. Our 24/7 support is familiar with this automation. They'd be happy to help you. If you want to send a message to the marketing team, maybe let us know what you've created yourself. We'd love to see it. You can email us at marketing@virtualpbx.com. Or, of course, we're available across the board on social media, so send us a message on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, @VirtualPBX. Show us what you've made. We'd be happy to see it. So thanks again for everyone for attending, and we will see you around.